Hello and welcome to today's webinar. This webinar is happening a little earlier than usual times because it is to accommodate our guests from France. Before we start, I would like to go over some housekeeping. This is a webinar format, which means your microphones and your cameras are turned off by default. We encourage you to communicate, so you can use the chat to communicate with each other and to communicate with the hosts and the panelists. However, if you have any questions pertaining to the presentation itself, please use the Q&A button. The moderators will monitor the Q&A just to make sure that your questions are answered towards the end of the presentation. And you can ask your questions anonymously if you desire. If you would like to enable closed captioning, you can do so on the bottom of the panel. And last but not least, this webinar is recorded and the recording will be available hopefully by the end of the evening. And without any further ado, I would like to hand it off to Julia Funaki to start.
Thank you, Belma. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you and welcome. Thank you for joining us on this ACRO-hosted webinar along with the IESC on France, an update on upper secondary education. We are honored and delighted to be joined by our French colleagues today, and they will introduce themselves in just a few moments. But first, I'd like to introduce my good colleague at ACRO, David Mahaly, and turn it over to him for further introductions. David?
Thank you, Julia. I'll just reiterate that we appreciate everybody for joining us today for what is a timely webinar on updates to upper secondary education in France. And moving right along, it is my pleasure now to introduce Jasmine Saidi-Kunert, who serves as the chair of ACRO's International Education Standards Council, and who is the founder, president, and CEO of the Academic Credentials Evaluation Institute, which is in Los Angeles, California. I am also pleased to introduce another denizen of Los Angeles, Emily Tsay, who served as the director of evaluations for the International Education Research Foundation, otherwise known as IERF, for many years, and is now, or is currently still, a member of the International Education Standards Council. Emily has just recently joined CGFNS International, which is the world's largest credentials evaluation organization for the nursing and allied health professions. And her job title there is Senior Director of Knowledge Management. I will turn it right over to you, Jasmine. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dave, and greetings, everybody, from a very overcast, cloudy Los Angeles. As Dave mentioned, I am a member of the International Education Standards Council. I currently serve as its chair. This is a group that is composed of professionals who have worked or are currently working in higher education, as well as private credential evaluation firms. We are a voluntary group. We are very dedicated to our profession in international education. Every member of this council has participated in research projects on world education systems, are published authors, and continue to contribute to international education through their work, whether here at the council or their other obligations to other professional associations that address world education systems. When education standards change and new credentials are awarded, or an education system is reorganized, ACRO EDGE, which is the electronic database on global education, uses the expertise of the IESC to review and update the recommendations in EDGE. And based upon the research collected, new recommendations are developed and approved by the IESC and then published within the ACRO EDGE, providing advice for how best to understand international credentials in the context of the US education system. An example of the work we do as members of the IESC is today's webinar and our collaboration with the Embassy of France and the Ministry of National Education of France and other representatives who are engaged in providing educational programs according to the French system. I'd like to allow my colleague Emily, who also serves with me on the council, to speak a little bit about her work on the French education system, and then I would then introduce our colleagues who will be our presenters today. Emily?
Hi, thank you. It's great to have you all here with us. We were actually attempting to pinpoint the genesis of this webinar, as the planning really has been in the works for a few months. So we're very excited that this day has now arrived. There were 2 points of interaction with the French authorities and the educational attaché section of the French embassy while we were in DC earlier this year for a conference. Jasmine, our chair, had a co-presentation while I had a meeting to discuss points of the French educational system, specifically with the Grandes Écoles. Afterwards, Olivier reached out to Jasmine, offering his assistance so that we could properly update the French Bac in the EDGE profile. During these communications, we invited him to provide a webinar to make sure that this information gets out to all of you, this really important information. He subsequently assembled this amazing panel for which we're grateful. Jasmine?
Thank you, Emily. So now I would like to formally introduce to you Mr. Olivier Boisson, who is the head of the French School Department at the Embassy of France in Washington, D.C. And as Emily mentioned, Olivier has been instrumental in spearheading this webinar presentation and bringing together experts and representatives from the various education authorities within France and here in the United States. I would like to now turn the mic over to Olivier to please introduce the panelists, and we will, after that, begin the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jasmine. Thank you very much to all of our colleagues at IESC and ACRAO for making this webinar possible. And a warm welcome to all of the audience members. I think we have about 150 people, including also about 11 people as presenters. My name is Olivier Boisson, the head of the French Curriculum Schools Department here at the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. And I cover the United States and Canada, so 62 French curriculum schools. 12 of those offer the lycée level baccalaureate tracks. Today, we're going to have presentations from several distinguished colleagues. Most of them are based in France, and some of them are based here in North America. Among them are notably colleagues from the DREIC, Délégation aux Relations Européennes, Internationales et Coopération, which is the segment of France's Ministry of National Education that focuses on international projects and cooperation. And you will hear from Nathalie Nikitenko, who is at the helm of DREIC and will give you the formal introduction to this webinar. And with her is Emmanuel de Tournemire and another colleague, Vanessa Fattore, as presenters. Among presenters from France's Ministry of Education too, we will have the pleasure of welcoming Françoise Parillot and Isabelle Legui. They are both from the Inspectorate General of France's Ministry of Education, which is a very important body in our system in France. They will give you the main presentations on the baccalaureate track with spécialités and its 23-24 updates, and the main presentation on the Baccalauréat Français International, France's brand new international track, especially its American version. As part of this presentation on the American version of BFI, there will be 2 inserts, one from our colleagues at AEFE, that's France's National Agency for French Schools Abroad, under the aegis of France's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and their headquarters in Paris, France. We have 2 of our colleagues there. There are also inspectors based at AEFE's headquarters, Isabelle Polizzi and Georgina Morat. And another insert in the presentation on BFI version américaine will be from our friendly colleagues at Lycée Français de New York, Jérémy Bourdon, who is the head of secondary, and Gail Burson, who is the college counselor at Lycée Français de New York. We hope you enjoy this series of presentation. It was a lot of fun to assemble this panel with the help of our colleagues at ACRAO and IESC. And I now hand it over to Nathalie Nikitenko, the head of DREIC. Nathalie?
Thank you, Olivier. their admission officers, dear colleagues and members of the association ACRAO. First of all, I would like to thank the members of the association, and especially Jasmine, David, Julia, Emily, and Belma for organizing such a webinar. I am very pleased to introduce this meeting, which will enable us to share with you months of work and unveil new curriculum and possibilities for pupils. Since 2022, the international option of the French Baccalaureate, formerly known as OIB, has evolved into the International French Baccalaureate, or BFI, a more flexible and multilingual curriculum. The first BFI graduates will attend the June 2024 exam and are likely to apply to US universities that same school year. The International French Baccalaureate is a highly demanding version of the French General Baccalaureate, with an emphasis on languages and culture. Languages, why? Because in our system, students can choose from 14 different languages, ranging, for example, from English, with American, British, and Australian partners, to Arabic, Japanese, Spanish, German, or Brazilian, or Portuguese. Culture, why? Because we have contemporary studies. It is a new innovative coursework exploring contemporary and social issues combined with personal research in partnership with the native, and ending up in an oral presentation. With the American version of this baccalaureate, developed in partnership with the College Board, some advanced placements, some APs, can count towards the French exam, which is very new for us. But I will let then my colleagues, Françoise and Isabelle, go in further details. And really, I'm very glad to be with you at the beginning of this session, and I wish you a very nice meeting. Thank you very much.
Merci, Nathalie. Thank you. As you can see on this slide, we are speaking from the French General Inspectorate for Education, Sport and Research. And my colleague, Françoise, and I are both responsible, among other things, for supervising the English language international track in French schools. So that's why we are very happy to present the French Baccalaureate, and its international version today. So we heartily thank ACRAO, of course, and Olivier in Washington, and our audience for being here today with us to hear about the latest developments in our baccalaureate and international baccalaureate. So I'm going to start with a general presentation. Thank you, Belma, for the next slide. So a general presentation of the architecture and principles of the French baccalaureate. So generally speaking, there are three streams in upper secondary education in France. There is the general stream, which leads students to its long-term higher education. There is the technological stream, offering access to further or higher education in technological subjects such as management, biotechnologies, etc. There is the vocational stream for students who want to train in a particular profession, but they can also have access to further education if they wish to. Our focus today will be on students enrolled in the general stream, the first one on the slide. This stream, the general stream, Voie Générale, makes up the majority, because the students enrolled in this general stream make up the majority of university applicants. Most of them carry on studying in higher education, including for some of them in universities abroad. And the international track, which will be The second part of our presentation is only offered to students enrolled in the general stream. So that's why our focus will be on that aspect of upper secondary education. Thank you. For the next slide, Velma. So here you see the general architecture of baccalaureate and the organization of the last 2 years in upper secondary education, the equivalent of grades 11 and 12 in the American system of education. In our system, they are called première and terminale, so they make up the last 2 years of upper secondary education, and they take place in lycée, such as the lycée in New York City, which you are going to hear about in a few minutes. So the main principles underlying the 2019 evolution of the baccalaureate are the following, and I'm going to lay emphasis on 3 of them. The first one is a broad core curriculum common to all students, which provides them with a common culture. The novelty in September 2023, so recently, a few weeks back, was that mathematics was reinstated into the core curriculum. Well, you can see on the slide here, the core curriculum made up of French literature in the 11th grade, philosophy in the 12th grade, 2 languages, history, geography and civics, physical education, and now maths added to science. Now, mathematics had been removed from the core curriculum in favor of a more in-depth study as a concentration subject. But after testing this formula, it was decided to reinstate mathematics into the core curriculum. So this was done this September. Now, of course, the concentration subject mathematics still exists. And this is the second part of this short presentation of the evolution of the baccalaureate. The concentration subjects, which are mentioned here on the slide, they are meant to provide a better transition from secondary education to higher education. So there is a choice of 11 concentration subjects, majors, in a way, major subjects, chosen by the students in this list of 11. They choose 3 concentration subjects in grade 11, and then they renounce 1 in grade 12 and keep the other 2. But the number of hours devoted to those subjects remains the same. It is 12 hours in grade 11 and 12 hours in grade 12. So in grade 11, the 12 hours are divided by 3, and in grade 12, divided by 2. So it's the same general volume of teaching for those concentration subjects, which are added to the core curriculum. The general principle of this new architecture was to give more flexibility to students and help them devise a more personalized pathway for themselves. The former organization was a set menu of 3 main paths. One was science, the other one was social studies, and the third one was humanities, in the general stream, of course. So this set menu couldn't be mixed. You were either enrolled in the science pathway or the social studies pathway or the humanities pathway. Now, with the concentration subjects, the students can make up their own menu and their own profile. For example, they can choose to study, which was not possible before, they can choose to study economics and biology. And a number of students actually choose this combination, and I'm talking about grade 12. They may have chosen mathematics in grade 11, mathematics, economics, and biology, which is a beautiful menu, which would not have been possible in the former organization. So there you have more flexibility, a more modular organization, but still with a core curriculum for every single student in the upper secondary education in lycées. And we can move on, Belma, to the next slide. Thank you. You can see here what it's self-explanatory in a way, so I'm not going to explain that in detail. It's in French, I'm sorry about that, but I couldn't find the English equivalent, but you can see the figures. You can see the relative weights of the core curriculum, which is assessed as coursework and weighs 40% in the exam, the baccalaureate exam and diploma. And you can see the final examinations, épreuve terminale, which weigh 60% in the final examinations and the diploma. So 40% for the core curriculum, assessed as coursework, and 60% for the final examinations, which take place at the end of grades 11 and 12. And I'm going to give you a little explanations about a few explanations about this. At the end of grade 11, there is one final examination, which is part of the 60% that you can see here. It is the written and oral exam in French language and literature. Now, once the students have taken this exam, and they all take it in grade 11, they move on to studying philosophy in grade 12. So in grade 12, they do not study French language and literature unless they choose it as a concentration subject, but it's no longer in the core curriculum. It is replaced in the core curriculum by philosophy, and they all take philosophy. Actually, all students in France in grade 12 take philosophy. It's mandatory, whether they are in the general stream, the technological stream, or the professional stream. So at the end of grade 12, they have other final examinations, one in philosophy, two in their concentration subjects for grade 12, and an oral examination whose foundation is also the work done in the concentration subjects. These examinations, the final examinations in grade 12 and also in grade 11 for French language and literature, are centrally organized. As you know, France is a centralized country. So our examinations are centrally organized. They are administered by the French Ministry of Education. The students' papers for these final examinations are marked by teachers and moderated by inspectors. And of course, you will keep the slides, well, the PowerPoint presentation, so you will be able to take a closer look at this slide if necessary. Thank you, Belma, for the next slide. Now, we were told that you were interested in the timeline of grade 12, so we have given you a fairly simple timeline, including both the final examinations in grade 12 and also the process for admission into universities in France, or universities and more generally higher and further education in France. Now, we have an admission platform which is called Parcoursup, which centralizes all the applications, and the applications have to be submitted by April each year, and this is the timeline for 2023, and in 2023 all applications had to be submitted by April the 6th. Now, when for these applications, the students have to upload a number of documents. The documents concerned are their transcripts for grade 11 and grade 12 up to April. So it means that they haven't got the last transcript in grade 12, but they have all the transcripts in grade 11 and the first 2 transcripts of grade 12. And they submit these documents and a number of other documents which may be asked, such as an application letter, a description of their orientation project. From late May until mid-June, the final examinations are organized and assessed, as you can see here on the timeline. For every student, the final examinations, as I said, include philosophy, the 2 concentration subjects, and the oral exam. In addition to these examinations taken as part of the standard baccalaureate, the students enrolled in an international program also take examinations, extra examinations. They take the standard examinations that all students take, plus the specific examinations for the international programs, and these will be detailed in a few minutes. Shortly after the results are published in early July, and that's the end of the timeline, the students receive their diploma and the transcript for their baccalaureate examinations. So this is another document that they have at their disposal for any application they wish to make, including applications abroad. So concerning the applications for foreign universities, the documents available for the applications are the following: the report cards or transcripts for students' grades and teachers' comments for grades 11 and 12, for every single subject studied in the core curriculum or as concentration subjects, and also for the specific subjects studied in the international tracks. And they also have their baccalaureate transcripts delivered at the end of grade 12 in early July. So these are the documents that you can rely on for the applications. In 2022, these are the latest figures that we have. The results for the standard baccalaureate was 96% results, positive results in the general stream. And for the students enrolled in an international program, the results were 99.61% in 2022. We haven't got the final statistics for 2023 because some belated examinations are taking place as usual every year. For some specific cases, we have examinations in September. So we haven't got the statistics now, but we may be able to provide them later. So now we will move on to the international programs in the French school system. So thank you, Belma, for the next slide. Thank you. And I'm going to introduce briefly these international programs, about which more details will be given by Françoise and then by our colleagues in the French school in New York City. We wanted to present the international programs today specifically because there has been an evolution from the OIB, Option Internationale duBaccalauréat. We have had an evolution to the BFI, the International French Baccalaureate, and this took place in 2022. The first students enrolled in 2022. Well, they were the same students enrolled in the OIB, but they just dropped into the BFI, if I may say so. And the first cohort to take the BFI examination will be in 2024. So we are actively preparing for this examination in 2024, in June 2024. To introduce our international programs, I would like to say a word about languages in our education system. Students in France start learning a foreign language, a first foreign language, which is usually English. For 99% of them, it is English at age 6 in primary education, age 6. 99% of them start English. And the 1% remaining percent learn a foreign language also, but in another language, usually German, Spanish, and sometimes Italian. Then at the age of 12, in lower secondary education, they start a second foreign language, which they keep until grade 12. So from the age of 12 to the final examination of the baccalaureate in grade 12, they study 2 foreign languages. Now, some students choose to have to lay more emphasis on languages and international culture, and they enroll in an international track. You will have details and figures about that in a few seconds now. And these international programs allow them to lay more emphasis on languages, to learn these languages at a much higher level. And this will be explained by Françoise right now. So thank you for your attention. And I'm turning to Françoise now to hand over the mic.
Thank you very much, Isabel, and thank you, Belma, for showing us the next slide, if you don't mind. Okay, here we go. So here I would like to have a look at you to focus on the weight of English-speaking international sections. As Natalie said in her introduction, we have 17 linguistic and cultural areas in the international tracks, 14 languages, 3 varieties of English. If we focus on English-speaking international sections more particularly, we can maybe share with you the fact that UK international sections represent 28% of the French international track, with 220 sections in France and in French schools abroad, primary and secondary levels. In comparison, US international track now, that's 19% of all international sections. That's to say, for the time being, 154 sections in France and abroad, primary and secondary levels included. And what is really interesting to note is that the American BFI has the most extensive international presence among the 17 bilateral educational partnerships established by the French Ministry of Education. That's 96 American international sections and 38 American BFI for this school year, 2023-2024. As Natalie Nikitenko said, we have other international tracks. She mentioned Arabic tracks, 102, Chinese, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. Those are just examples. As you can see on the slide, the BFI is a demanding program. So of course, the students have to undergo a selective process and there are admission requirements. So whether OIB, whether they were part of the OIB or the former OIB program, or now part of the BFI program, the students are selected on their language skills and also on their ability to undertake a greater workload, because of course, as they have specific courses, subjects, in addition to the core curriculum and the concentration subjects, this is something to be taken into account. As far as their profiles go, they may be students from bilingual, bicultural, or multilingual even backgrounds, or simply students with a strongly marked interest in languages and diverse cultures. So for you to have an idea of the geographical location of those international sections on the world map, I will now briefly hand the mic over to Georgina, that appears on the screen, and that is an inspector who particularly, a pedagogical inspector who particularly works with French schools abroad. So Georgina, here's to you.
Hi, thank you, Françoise. So Belma, if we can just see the next slide, please, that would be great. We at the AOFU, we believe that it would be interesting for you to be able to visualize where the American sections are implemented around the world. So if you look at the yellow circles on this world map, those are all the different international sections. And as Françoise was saying, we have these sections in 29 different countries. So within the international French school network, the American sections are indeed the most popular ones and the most widely represented. Françoise mentioned the Arabic sections. Those are the green circles, and the British sections are the brown circles. So of course, you'll be able to see this map more in detail when you have the slides, but we just thought it might be visually interesting for you to be able to see how popular and how widespread these sections are around the different continents. Thank you, Françoise. It's back to you.
Thank you very much, Georgina. And maybe we can go on to the next slide. Thank you very much. Okay, so here on this slide, you will see again what Isabel previously presented on the core curriculum and the concentration subjects column, the column on the left and the one in the middle. And you can see an addition on the right-hand side. We're now dealing with the curriculum that is offered to the students in the BFI classes. So it's, as we said, the BFI program is a program that students can take the last 2 years of upper secondary education, preceding university entrance. And it includes specific subjects which are added to the general architecture of grades 11 and 12. So as you can see, we have, first of all, history and geography that are taught 2 hours a week in a foreign language, in language A, the language of the section. Then another subject, literature, language, and culture, 4 hours a week, which can be taught, well, I will tell you about that in a second. And the third one is a module called Connaissance du Monde that is similar to global studies. I think Natalie Nikotenko referred to it as contemporary studies. And so all specific subjects are taught and studied in at least one foreign language. So now, what is new compared to the former OIB here that the students took until this school year? Well, the BFI introduces more flexibility. It gives the students the possibility to choose, to make choices and customize their academic journey. How? Well, depending on the school offer, they can have, for instance, 3 possible pathways. On this specific aspect or point, you'll have an additional information slide that you will be able to have a look at on your own. So we have 3 possible pathways: bilingual, trilingual, and quadrilingual. So all students study the core curriculum and their chosen concentration subjects in French and the BFI specific subjects in 1, 2, or 3 foreign languages. History and geography, as well as Connaissance du Monde, are always taught and studied in language A, so the language of the section. As for literature, language, and culture, things can vary according to the pathway. It can be taught and studied in foreign language A in bilingual sections. It can be taught and studied in foreign language B in trilingual and quadrilingual sections. In addition to that, at the bottom, you can see that another subject taken among the concentration subjects may be partly taught in another language, and that's for 2 hours a week. So in foreign language A for bilingual sections, foreign language B trilingual sections, and foreign language C in quadrilingual sections. Last but not least, there is a possible substitution of some of the specific subjects or concentration subjects by APs for the American BA5 only, but you'll hear about that in a few minutes. Belmont, if you don't mind, we can move on to the next slide. So in the 3 following slides, we're going to have a look at the 3 specific BFI subjects. So the first one, Connaissance du Monde, so Global Studies Research Seminar. This is the signature course of the BFI, and it is new. It didn't exist in the OIB offer. It combines the study of major contemporary issues with a personal research project developed by the student with an international partner. That partner can be an organization or an individual native to the other language. So it can be an artist, researcher, a teacher, students as well. This course has been designed to foster student engagement and to give students the keys to tackle the complexity of today's world from a different perspective. And the feedback that we have on that new subject is very encouraging and very positive, and both teachers and students seem very enthusiastic about it. So the different perspective, of course, is brought by the partner's cultural and political area. You also have on that slide information on the final exam for that subject. It's an oral exam, only 20-minute exam, and it's a presentation on the research project and all the process linked to the partnership that is conducted in English and assessed by a 2-person jury. Thank you, Belmont. We can move on to the following slide. So this is literature, language, and culture, approfondissement culturel et linguistique in French. So that was already part of the former OIB program. Nothing has changed here. So as you can see, it tightly connects literature and culture. Students are introduced to great texts and to the ideas they convey. They also contextualize that in relation to key cultural and literary movements. They read about North American literature, but also about world literature from various periods, and it's very attractive and very interesting. It engages students in close reading, and it makes them get familiar with a critical literature analysis to get from an individual viewpoint, but they also do a lot of teamwork, and it's associated with creative writing as well. It's really a very interesting course. The next one, Belma, if you please. Okay, that's history and geography now. Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear us again? Okay. Sorry
Yes,
about that.
back.
Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, as I was saying, it combines American and French perspectives on the various themes that are part of the syllabus. So the students are trained to analyze sources, make connections, explore comparison, as you can see on the slide. They tackle things like the 1929 crisis, for example, and its economic and social impact in the US and in France in the 30s. That's an example. Another example is a comparison between France and the US from the perspective of maritime powers. So both in history and geography, they are trained to focus on both viewpoints. So we can move on to the next slide. So this echoes the slide number 5 that Isabel commented previously. Here you have the weight of the international track subjects in the baccalaureate exam. So as you can see, well, it speaks for itself. Again, you'll have the opportunity to come back on that slide on your own. We can emphasize the fact that BFI subjects and under the form of final exams represent 40% of the total score for the students that are involved in international tracks. So I think that's what you can remember. And to conclude, maybe we can move on to the following slide. Belma, thank you. So on this slide, we wanted to encapsulate, so to speak, the added value of the international track and enable you to see how well equipped for higher education BFI graduates are. You see the emphasis on the strong multidisciplinary base, the fine linguistic skills, the capacity to express themselves in an articulate and nuanced manner, to present diverse viewpoints in at least 2 languages for the bilingual pathway, or more in the trilingual or quadrilingual pathways. So really they are prepared to meet the expectations of the best universities. Maybe a few words on the trilingual pathway that we mentioned, but we didn't expatiate upon. So this pathway, like the quadrilingual pathway, of course, presents a multilingual profile with a high level of linguistic competence in 3 languages, so French, English, of course, and an additional foreign language. It includes courses that are designed to teach and learn each language at a very high level of achievement in various courses. And the targeted levels in terms of achievement are high. They depend on the status of each language, of course, and it's higher in the language of the section. It's interesting for you to know that BFI graduates often apply for entrance in British or American universities, but also other English-speaking universities in other countries, like the Netherlands, for instance. And in the French system, those BFI graduates very often apply for entrance into selective higher education courses, double diplomas, or the grandes écoles that were, I think, mentioned in the introduction. In the following slides, thank you, Belma, for going over them quickly. You have an inkling of what is available online, our communication documents. So they'll give you complementary information and maybe further details. And I will now give the mic to Mr. Bourdon and Mrs. Burson from the Lycée Français of New York. And they're going to give you more details on the possible substitution of some of the concentration subjects or BFI specific subjects by APs. Thank you very much. And Jeremy and Gail.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're very grateful to be part of this webinar, and we are thankful that our French colleagues invited us to contribute and bring that perspective of a school that has a long history of bringing this international versions of the French back to a school here in New York City. And I'm delighted to be today joined by Gail Burston, our Director of College Counseling. Gail?
Yes, thank you. Very nice to be here to talk about the French bac and its application here in New York City, as my colleague Jeremy has said. I have a long history of working with ACRO, having served for many decades in higher education before coming to what we call this side of the college counseling desk in working with students who are preparing for post-secondary study. So I hope the information that we're about to provide will make a more concrete example for you of how a longstanding institution, 85 years old, here in New York City has delivered a high quality French education with very interesting substitutions.
Thank you, Gail. So before we dive into the question of the APs within the BFI, within the Baccalauréat Français International, I wanted to give you a perspective on the history of these international versions of the French bac, especially since 2011, when the BFA, which was the Baccalauréat Franco-Américain, was the first one to allow for a collaboration between the College Board and their APs within the baccalaureate. And so since then, at the lycée, we've had students every year who have been taking a form of the bac that allows them to blend French courses from the baccalaureate and international courses from the international version of the baccalaureate, and also APs to complement their profile, which speaks to the need of sometimes the higher education in the US. So we have a long tradition of working with the College Board, and the Ministry of Education has done so for many years. And so we are now with the BFI on the heels of a very strong educational product that the Ministry of Education has put together over the years. So let's drill a bit more into that. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So just as a visual summary of what was presented to you today, we have on the left the Baccalauréat spécialités, which is the baccalaureate that is offered by the French Ministry of Education. And so you can see the French core in blue, the concentration in purple, and the electives in pink. And its equivalent, which is the BFI, the Baccalauréat Français International, where you see that the French core is actually split between a smaller core, but an expanded advanced bilingual and bicultural studies. And as was mentioned, part of that is global studies research seminar, is advanced literature, language and culture, and history and geography. And you can see on this slide that students are able to substitute some of the course of these advanced studies as well as electives by APs. And so we are going to show you which APs they can choose in substitution of some of these BFI courses. So let's go to the next slide, please. So let's look, or you can actually move one more. Yes, here we go. So here we are within the advanced bilingual and bicultural studies, which is at the core of the BFI. And you have on the top I would say the traditional OIB course that the students have always been able to take when it comes to language, literature, and culture. Within the BFI, the students are able to elect to choose an AP in substitution of their year 11, of their junior year. And so they can choose either AP English Language or AP English Literature. But you notice that in year 12, all the students will be together in their final year. What you can see also is a difference between the way the exams are organized, because if students elect to take an AP in year 11, that AP grade will count toward the baccalaureate in substitution of the written exam that our students usually take at the end of their year 12. And so that's also a way for students to first, of course, enjoy an AP course, which is quite different in terms of format and content, but also being able to balance their exam between year 11 and year 12, because here the written exam would be in year 11 and only an oral exam would happen at the end of year 12. And so we can go to the next slide and move one more. So independently from their choices of language, literature, and culture, and whether they want to elect for an AP, they can do the same in advanced history and geography studies. So again, they can have the 2-year course of advanced studies, or in year 11, they can elect to take one of these 4 APs that are part of the BFI: European history, US history, world history, or human geography. And same as previously with English, you can see here that the AP grade is actually the one that will count toward the back in substitution of the written exam that students usually take in year 12. And if they take an AP, they have only an oral at the end of year 12. So here you can see that students can elect to take no AP at all, to take 1 AP, either in English or in history and geography, or to take 2 APs, 1 in English and 1 in history and geography. So from 0 to 2 APs in year 11 as part of the BFI. Next slide, please. Another way for them to substitute a course that is part of the baccalaureate is to do that through electives. Students in year 12 can elect to take mathematics expert, which is the highest level of math that is offered in the French curriculum. And they can elect to take that in addition to the concentration in math that they have to keep. But they can also elect to take an AP in substitution of math expert, either AP Calculus BC or AP Statistics. If they don't take the math concentration in year 12 and they elect to take another math elective, math complémentaire, they can substitute that as part of the BFI with AP Statistics. In that case, they will take an oral in English at the end of terminal with a big weight, actually, which speaks to their skills and what they have developed in year 12. So you can see that students can elect to take from 0 to 3 APs as part of the BFI. One note here is that the AP grade, when it comes to the elective, doesn't count toward the back. Only an oral grade will be counted toward the baccalaureate. Next slide. Gail, you want to talk about this transcript?
Yes, we thought it would be helpful to show you how we interpret these substitutions and how we record and translate classes on what we call the American version of the transcript that we send to colleges and universities. Here in New York at the Lycée, almost 65% of our students will enroll at colleges and universities in the United States. Ironically, I might add, bac results, which you learned in the previous presentation, are not available until July of the student's graduating year, are not considered at all in the process of evaluating students for admission at highly selective and, frankly, at all American colleges and universities. Of course, those results and their bac may be provided to the colleges and universities in which they enroll for additional credit for advanced standing after they make their enrollment choice. To bring some uniformity to the transcripts, we try to be very clear about the names of the courses that the students are taking. And you will see that where, for example, our students are enrolled in their spécialités, we are using that word or major to indicate the 3 courses that they are concentrating in. We also are very clear about, in the case of the new BFI, the language around Connaissance du Monde, which is the Global Studies Research Seminar. You saw it in previous examples today with other language sometimes that is used. I am about to attend the NACAC meeting in Baltimore on Thursday and Friday, where the special interest group of French lycées, particularly in the United States, will be meeting to make sure that our transcripts offer some uniformity to our American post-secondary partners so that they can understand exactly what our students are taking and that they will not see differences between the transcripts that they are receiving from American lycées.
So maybe we can go to the next slide that
Yes.
shows actually the specific BFI courses here.
Yes, so you will see the substitutions noted where students have taken advanced placement instead of their advanced language, literature, and culture courses. So the APs are noted clearly. Students who apply in the United States, of course, and have taken APs and received results may choose to send those results as part of their admissions materials. It's unlikely that for students in the United States, as most of you in ACRO know, will receive credit both for their APs and whatever they may be receiving as a result of successfully completing their French bac. But it is a very useful currency for our students to demonstrate the rigor and the achievement of managing in a system that both is bicultural and bilingual.
Thank you very much. So I think we are done with our slides here.
Wonderful. We will enter into the Q&A now. And I am turning it over to my colleague, David Mahali, and he will sort of guide us through along with Jasmine and Emily as we go through the Q&A.
Thanks, Julia. We have a lot of questions, some quite broad, others a little bit more narrow, going right down into the type of mathematics in year 11 and 12. But the first one I knocked off the list by asking a question. The first question involved getting the grades from the BAC exams and how the institution would be able to receive those grades, and by which institution the actual grade report is issued. Related question, people were wondering when does the actual Diplôme de Baccalauréat get issued physically as a document, and we can open that up to the panelists or our ACRO panelists for that matter. Anyone can jump in on that one.
Hello, if I might comment on that. At the Lycée in New York, for example, we issue a final transcript for our students. It looks like the ones that we have shared with you that indicates that they have graduated and completed the requirements. That happens in June of year 12, and it's an American diploma. So they receive a Lycée American diploma, and then their bac results follow. As I said, most American universities will not require those. It will be at the discretion of the student to offer them. But most of my colleagues at the other lycées in the United States do something very similar to what we are doing here in issuing a translated American-looking diploma that will confirm graduation.
Okay, and for France, as far as France is concerned, the students get their transcripts with a mention of the fact that they have actually passed the baccalaureate in early July, and the diploma is issued later on in September.
Thank you. Just a related question. Someone asked, what happens when a student has completed the curriculum through the 12th year but does not receive the BAC for whatever reason? We used to see a certificat de scolarité, something like that, for that. Is there still a document issued that is not the BAC for people that did not, for whatever reason, take the BAC exams?
Well, they have their grade reports, and they have a transcript of their baccalaureate grades, the grades that they got for the BAC, and it just says that they haven't passed.
Yep.
Is that, if I understand your question?
Right. I think the overarching point is that if the student does not obtain the baccalaureate, they haven't officially completed upper secondary school in France. Is I think what we're hearing.
Excuse me, David, if I might add, that would not be
Sure.
the case in the United States. So
Right,
our
okay.
students who do not, for whatever set of reasons, and it's very rare, do not pass the bac or do not choose to take the bac, they will graduate with a lycée diploma and they will be considered as graduates of high school in the United States.
Thank you for that.
And in France, they will repeat their year if they want to go to university or to higher education. They will repeat year 12.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, we have questions regarding the core subject and elective subjects. Are the curricula for the subjects in the BAC available online for people to distribute to faculty members who may be considering those exams for advanced placement credit at institutions outside of France? Does the ministry have the curricula posted for all the subjects that we might see in the BAC?
Absolutely, it's all online in French.
Okay. Let me see. Some questions about the AP results. Would the AP grade be present on the final BAC transcript is one question, and how will the AP College Board exam show on the official relevé de notes at the end? Also, ancillary question, will the subject math complémentaire still be mentioned in the final relevé de notes in case a student took the AP statistics course?
So maybe I can take that question. So on the question of the APs, the AP scores are given at the end of year 11, right? Because the AP substitution only happened in year 11. So by the time the BAC results are pronounced, which is in June for us, 2024 here, we already have the grades of the AP that the students took in year 11 last year. So they will indeed appear as a substitution grade for the BAC on the BAC results and on the BAC transcript. And math complémentaire, if it's substituted by an AP statistics, that would only show AP statistics on the transcript.
Thank you. I'm inviting my colleagues to rescue any questions that I'm missing. There's a question about grading. One person would like to know what the average graduating average is for the BAC on the 20-point scale. I assume that this is overall in France. Does anyone know what the medium or the average would be for students completing the BAC average score?
For them to pass, they need a 10 out of 20. But as I think we might have said, the OIB students, I think it was in 2022 that took the baccalaureate, 80% of them had an average of 80% of them had more than an average of 14 out of 20. And a great proportion, I think it's over 50%, have more than 16 out of 20. An average score.
Thank you. Emily, did you want to tackle something?
Yeah. Actually, it's a follow-up question to the one that was just asked. So we can assume that the grading practices are the same between the lycées, the domestic lycées in France versus the international lycées abroad?
Absolutely.
Great. There was a question raised about how participants can find a list of schools that offer this curriculum in the international sites abroad?
Okay, that's an official document that is online. It's published every year. And it gives the list of all the international sections and the BFI classes in France and abroad.
And this list, is it
sorry, we can maybe we can send you the last one, the 2023 one.
Yeah, would it be possible to provide the link in the chat? That would be very helpful for our audience. So this information, is it normally found on the Ministry of Education website or the AEFE website?
Yes, it's available on the French Ministry of Education website.
Okay, thank you. And then just to confirm, what is in France, what's considered the final proof of secondary school graduation? So it would be the Diplôme de Baccalauréat?
Yes, together with the transcript of the baccalaureate grades. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Are these ever made available in an official capacity electronically, or is it normally still the physical document?
It's physical. Electronic. It's both. It's both. I think it's both. Well, I'm not sure. It's given the students get their transcripts physically, and the diploma as well. I think actually. Maybe Jeremy, can you help us on that? But the diploma is a physical document.
Yeah, but I think there's a web.
Sorry, the link to the list is in the chat.
Thank you.
On the chat. Georgina, sorry, maybe Georgina, you can.
I was wondering if the baccalaureate was available on that website where people can go and check the degrees or diplomas that students have obtained. That was opened a few years ago. I wasn't sure if the baccalaureate was included on that or not.
Well, I think each student gets a physical document for both, but then of course it can be made electronic.
Okay, so it's available both in physical form and electronic form.
Right. Eventually, yes.
And students are also able to obtain official duplicate copies, so they can get more than one.
They can get a duplicate of their results. I'm not sure they can get a duplicate of the diploma.
Okay.
We would have to check that. They can get a duplicate of their results transcript.
Okay. Yes.
I'm not sure about the diploma.
Emily, at the lycée, we offer the students 2 certified copies so that we act as the responsible agent, so that colleges and universities would know that these are legitimate results.
Perfect. Yeah, that was my follow-up question. If they don't issue official duplicates, if certified copies would be available and considered satisfactory.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I see another question is for the math that's taken in the general Bac, unless they're taking the AP option, which is in calculus or statistics, what if they don't do the AP, what is normally covered in math in the general stream?
Well, in the core curriculum, year 11, it's mathematical probabilities, statistics, and
data analysis.
Data analysis.
Thank you. Dave, any other questions were there?
There is a question on a way to get a record of the class 9 and 10 grades, and the institution representative is saying they look for 3 years in a given subject. And is there a way to get the record prior to grades 11 and 12?
Absolutely.
So those are available from the
Absolutely, yes.
Right. Thank you. So we're running up against our time limit. Does anybody see a remaining question that we haven't answered or touched on?
Oh, I don't know if this is connected to the answer about having electronic records available, but someone did ask specifically if there's a portal available that universities can go to receive the results. So when we say electronic, I wasn't sure if it would be available through a portal, through email.
Well, I know, because that is really individual. So there's not a general portal with all the results. No.
Okay. And
Right.
I think we covered it.
Yes, thanks everyone. Well, thank you very much to our presenters and to the panel as a whole. I would like to remind you that we have on the third Thursday of every month the EDGE user group, which takes place at 2 o'clock Eastern time. In case our panelists in France need something to do around 8 or 9, depending on the time change in the US PM. But in any case, we take an hour to inform our audience every third Thursday of updates to the EDGE country profiles, and we take questions on those issues as well as other issues that the participants share with us. But thank you again for all your time. Thank you to all our panelists on both sides here of the Atlantic. And I think that we've answered most of the questions. So handing it off to you, Julia.
Well, and just to say thank you very much, au revoir, and we are very grateful to our guests. Let us know if there's anything else you'd like us. We are here to hear what your recommendations are for future webinars. Thanks and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.